The 17th of July, 2026. Inside the Mountain View headquarters, the very air seemed to vibrate with the hum of a digital revolution. Screens flickered with a relentless countdown, casting a blue glow over faces filled with anticipation. This was the birth of Gemini 3.5 Pro, codenamed Cappuccino. For months, the internal whispers had grown into a roar. Testers claimed it was a god in the machine, a model that crushed every rival in logic,
coding, and reasoning. The engineers clinked their coffee mugs in the hallways, laughing with the easy confidence of victors.
They believed the future was already theirs, written in a code that no one else could break. But dawn brought a cold, sharp reality. A Bloomberg report hit the wires like a blunt blade, shattering the glass facade of Google's empire. The headline was a death knell. Gemini 3.5 Pro, delayed by months. In a single morning, the stock price plummeted, shedding over 4% of its value as billions in market cap evaporated. Inside the labs, the celebratory atmosphere curdled instantly. The clinking of mugs was replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. A lead researcher stared at his terminal, his face pale in the screen's light. The benchmarks were clear. The coding performance was stagnant. It was a flat line where everyone had expected a mountain.
A month of frantic retraining had yielded nothing but expensive digital failure. The architect of the project finally snapped, his hands slamming against the desk with a sound that echoed through the sterile halls.
It was a collapse of epic proportions, and the rot was deeper than anyone dared to admit. One engineer pointed to the internal logs, his finger trembling. A resource request for GPU cycles had been blocked for the third time in a week. Despite a staggering $180 billion budget, the world's most talented team was starving. The bloated bureaucracy of the empire had finally begun to choke its own innovation. While lean startups sprinted in the shadows, the Google behemoth was tethered to 1,000 conflicting departmental interests, unable to take a single step forward without permission.
The talent exodus was the final nail in the coffin. The best minds,
the ones who had built the foundations of modern AI, were tired of the inertia. They packed their desks in silence, leaving their badges behind like discarded shells on a beach. Outside the campus, Ethan Mollick watched the collapse and coined a term that would haunt the industry: the next-gen model disappointment trap. The scaling laws, once regarded as holy scripture, were hitting a wall of diminishing returns. High-quality human data had been exhausted, and the architecture was gasping for air. It wasn't just a Google problem. It was a fundamental shift in the universe of intelligence. The brute force method of adding more power and more data was no longer enough. The machine had stalled, and the gears were grinding to a halt. The arrogance of the past decade was being stripped away, layer by layer, leaving the giants exposed and vulnerable.
As the sun set over the Mountain View campus, the halls felt colder than they ever had before.
The era of effortless, exponential progress had reached its platform. The hype that had fueled the industry for years had finally evaporated, leaving behind a hard, cold, and unforgiving reality. The path forward was no longer clear. For the first time in a generation,
the giants of Silicon Valley were looking into the darkness, and they were truly afraid.
The race wasn't about who was fastest anymore. It was about who could survive the stall.